Companies have reported an overwhelming and unexplainable increase in all-cause deaths among 18 to 49-year-olds. Along with that, there's also been an increase in certain medical diagnoses, such as miscarriages and Bell's palsy. Here to give us her take on the new data and what she believes could be causing the rise in numbers is emergency medicine and disaster specialist Dr. Kelly Victory. Dr. Victory, good morning. Great to talk to you as always.
Good morning, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we want to make sure that anytime we talk, we want to make sure the information that we have is accurate. So let's start this interview by telling us, I've seen your correspondence here, what is the source of the information that you're about to present?
Well, this information became available to me or on my radar last week following a hearing with Senator Ron Johnson, who was looking at sort of what he calls a second opinion on the entire response to the COVID pandemic. The medical data was released by 3 career military physicians who got the information from the military database that collects what we call ICD codes, which are the diagnosis codes. And these physicians had a feeling, they believed based on their own observation, that they were seeing a significant uptick in certain conditions. So they actually went back and culled the database from the military on certain conditions over a 5-year period from 2016 through 2020, notably containing 1 year, 2020, of the full-blown pandemic. So they looked at 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20 at the prevalence of certain conditions, including things like heart attack, blood clots to the lung, miscarriages, those sorts of things. And they compared it to the incidence of those same things in the calendar year 2021 and saw an alarming increase in certain things. For example, they saw a 270% increase in myocardial infarction in 2021, a 300% increase in incidence of Bell's palsy and of certain neurologic complaints, a 470% increase in pulmonary embolisms, blood clots to the lungs, and many, many other huge increases that they found alarming. Now, no one is saying with any certainty, Jason, what is causing this, but we certainly would be remiss as scientists if we didn't look at that and say, there is something going on. What happened in 2021 that was so different from the previous 5-year average that would cause this massive increase in certain medical conditions?
More people dying now than normal. In the UK, 1,300 more people a week are dying than normal, and they don't know why. Now, you know what the conspiracy theorists are saying? I don't think I can say it on this channel. But keep in mind, as far as COVID goes, I think the conspiracy theorists are about 5-0. And the people who have been lying have been Fauci and the government and the corporate media. It's captured by Big Pharma. So the liars here have been the usual suspects, the people in government, the people in corporations, and the people surrounding all that money. Non-COVID excess deaths, why are they rising? So I'm going to play a little bit of John Campbell. You know me, I like this guy, Dr. John Campbell. And he taught nurses how to be nurses for his whole life. And so this guy knows a lot about a lot. And here's what he says.
Well, welcome to today's talk, Wednesday, the 6th of July. We're looking at excess mortality. Now, basically, there's about 1,300 too many people per week dying in England and Wales at the moment, and we don't know why. It is not COVID-related. People are dying much more than we would expect based on previous year's averages. And I'm going to be giving evidence that suggests that this is not just a UK phenomenon. This is an international phenomenon. But we've got good quality data from the UK.
So it's happening all around the world. More people are dying in every country and every neighborhood than they normally would have before COVID. What changed? Well, let's look.
Where I want to look. So that's what this is about. We'll be giving some reasons why this might be happening. And we'll be trying to think a little bit about what we need to do about it as well. But it is definitely happening. There's been anecdotal reports about footballers and things having heart attacks. But this is definite statistical data now. So we can be sure about this evidence that we're about to give.
So he's talking about, we've all seen the videos of soccer players just collapsing with heart attacks. And apparently we never saw that before. I never saw people talk about that before.
I've never even heard of that before.
I never ever heard of that before. Well, I did. There was that Hank Gathers, who was a top draft for the Boston Celtics. He had a heart attack playing basketball, but they blame that
basketball.
They blame that on cocaine. But
how could soccer get you that excited that you have a heart attack? It's not with basketball. Yes.
I'm not sure if that was his name, Hank Gathers. I could be wrong.
No, it was Len
Bias. It was Len Bias, not Hank Gathers. That's a different guy. Len Bias. That's who it was. Thanks. Yeah.
So hundreds more people are dying per week in England and Wales than usual, and it's not from COVID. Office for National Statistics. COVID deaths for the UK. Week of the 24th of June ending, 346 people died from COVID. Not all of those from COVID, some of those were with COVID. 17th of June, it was 309. But the total deaths registered in the UK were 12,278. But this is the key thing. This is nearly 16% above the 5-year average.
So they take an average every 5 years of they take the number of how many people are dying on average each year. And this year we have almost 16% more people are dying on average in the UK.
So way more people are dying than we would expect based on the previous 5 years. Way more than we would expect. What is going on here?
Well, the conspiracy theorists say it's from the... And let's see, is it?
If more people are dying, this is quite a big concern. 16%, 15.9% more people than we would expect this week, this time of year, based on previous years, not COVID related. Latest breakdown for England and Wales that we have here. So the excess deaths more than we would expect, 1,540. COVID deaths, 285. About 6% of the COVID deaths gave COVID as the underlying cause. So 166 were from COVID and 119 were with COVID. So basically of this 285, quite a lot of those were basically incidental recordings on the death certificate. So if we take non-COVID excess deaths at 1,540, take away the COVID deaths, that means that the excess deaths that are not due to COVID are 1,374. So these are excess deaths that are not due to COVID. This is too many to be a statistical artifact. This is a genuine effect. Let's just look at a couple of graphics. So here we see the excess deaths. The black line there, the black marks there are what we would expect. Of course, this is going to vary depending on the time of year. But obviously, we see in the COVID spikes way more deaths due to COVID as we would expect. The dark blue are the deaths due to COVID. But now we actually see that the deaths are above the 5-year average, but not attributable to COVID. Here's a bit of a blow up of that. So COVID are the deaths there in blue, all the non-COVID deaths are in green, and we see that these are above the 5-year average. And only a small proportion of those are due to COVID. Only the blue bit is due to COVID. This one here, where the deaths appear to be below the 5-year average, it was a bank holiday in England and Wales, which in the UK are, unfortunately, depending on your perspective, taken quite seriously. So England and Wales data. This is England and Wales data. This is the 5 years up to 2019. So the ONS is quite clever here, really. So it's given this figure of excess deaths here. That one, the 15.9% excess deaths. That's based on the previous 5 years, but of course the previous 5 years included 2020 and 2021.
So he's saying that statistic he just showed you that said 16% of higher death rate. He said that's based on the previous 5 years, but that includes the COVID years, which is not a good representation of an average year. And so he's saying now they actually did a study where they took the 5 years before COVID